Hello, this is Zahil Alum. Welcome you all on Frankly Speaking. My guest today is Rushnara Ali MP, UK's trade envoy for Bangladesh. Rushnara Ali, a British Labour Party politician who has been the Member of Parliament for Bethnal Green and Bow since 2010. And on the occasion of Bengali New Year this year, former British Prime Minister David Cameron has selected Rushnara Ali MP as Bethnal Green and Bow to join the cross-party trade envoy network as trade envoy for Bangladesh, and Prime Minister Theresa May has also approved as the trade envoy for Bangladesh. So we welcome Rushnara Ali on Frankly Speaking. She is currently visiting Bangladesh. Welcome, Rushnara Ali, on Frankly Speaking. Wa alaikum assalam. Rushnara Ali, we met before and we had opportunity to discuss about bilateral relations a couple of occasions. But this time you are here on a different role and capacity as trade envoy, UK trade envoy for Bangladesh. So, I mean, what is the role as a trade envoy, and how you're focusing on as the new capacity?
Well, the focus is to act as a champion for Bangladesh and for Britain in relation to promoting trade and investment between our two countries. This is the first time that our government has identified Bangladesh as a country that should have a trade envoy. So I'm really delighted to have the opportunity to fulfill this role. What these positions enable us to do is to have a champion who can work within the UK government to make sure that the opportunity to trade with, in this case, Bangladesh, is well understood, and that we maximise the potential for our companies from Britain to be able to do business with Bangladesh. Obviously, we are a major investor here already, so there are many established links, but I hope that my role will help to accelerate the trading links further between the two countries.
We know it's already the UK second largest investor in Bangladesh. So, I mean, how your visit in particular will impact trade and commerce or boosting investment, UK's investment in Bangladesh?
Well, Bangladesh has got some major projects underway, major investment programs underway. Britain has got some brilliant companies. Some of them have been involved in Bangladesh for a long time, particularly obviously in the financial services sector, but also engineering and other forms of technical expertise. You have here, the Pyra Port program, but also the DP Rail, that's another company that's very interested in engaging here. Rolls-Royce has a campaign to work on providing engines for Biman Airlines. So there are lots of opportunities. What I hope will happen is that some of those opportunities come to fruition so that we can continue to strengthen those investment.
So you are going to meet some business leaders this leg of visit?
Yes, I'll be meeting business leaders as well as obviously members of the government and the Prime Minister to explore some of these opportunities. But this is as much a learning opportunity for me in my new role as it is anything else as well.
No, Britain has always been talking about deep and closer relations with Bangladesh. So as an emerging market, do you think the facilities we are providing for foreign investment in Bangladesh is literally conducive for boosting further investment from the outside of the country like UK?
Well, I think that like many emerging economies, many developing nations, there are many challenges. And those are ones that Britain has been involved with here through our international development agenda and also through the multilateral institutions like the World Bank, obviously a strong presence here in this country for a very long time. So it's about making sure that we work closely with Bangladesh to ensure that Britain can play an active role and has done with successive governments, both the last Labour government as well as this government, to ensure that there's better infrastructure and that the resources are deployed to enable those things to happen. And the government of Bangladesh is obviously focusing on additional infrastructure projects, which is very welcome. And our businesses can play a big role in providing the expertise and support there as well. And so that's where you have a win-win, where British businesses can benefit and Bangladesh can benefit through a trading relationship. And I see these things as these are seamless in terms of the different elements of what we do together as both countries.
You're representing the Labour Party, but why the Conservative administration selected you to? It's because you were the first Bangladeshi origin British national who was elected as the Member of Parliament? Is that the only criteria?
Well, I hope not. We have trade envoys who are from different political parties. So there are other Labour trade envoys for other countries, as well as obviously from the Conservative Party and Liberal Democrats and other smaller parties. So that's the model, and the Prime Minister directly appoints the envoys. And I was approached because I have a very strong, obviously, connection and interest in Bangladesh, and I have a set of interests in Bangladesh in ensuring that we work together to promote development, to promote social development as well as economic development. And I've been very active through my former roles as the Shadow Development Minister and also as a parliamentarian through our all-party parliamentary group on Bangladesh, in speaking up for Bangladesh and ensuring that the UK government continues to support Bangladesh, particularly obviously in honouring Britain's commitment to the development aid budget, which my party, when we were in government, had increased, and the Conservative-led coalition continued with. So, you know, they can. I suppose the decision was made by the Prime Minister. I appreciate that he wanted me to do this role, and I'm really excited about it, because I think that we can do more together, and I hope that I can play some modest role in strengthening further our relationships and our economic ties, and ensure that both countries prosper and grow further, and that we can promote economic development between the two countries.
Rushna Ali, as I recall, and you have been always talking about helping out Bangladesh to thrive economically, socially, and also you are trying to standing by Bangladesh for facing the catastrophic consequences of climate change and many other fields. So apart from standing by on boosting trade ties, what is the other focus you have in your mind during your visit and when you are going to meet some of the policymakers and other stalwarts in Bangladesh?
Well, I'm very keen to see how the garments industry has made changes to improve the conditions in which garments workers work following the Rana Plaza accident, and I'm looking forward to making visits as part of this programme to see how labour standards can be and have improved, and what else our government can do to continue to support Bangladesh as it does that. We have many multinational companies who operate here.
Yeah. Around 100?
Yeah.
More than 100,
right, that's right. And also many who are particularly involved in the garment sector. So it's very important to me that our companies are responsible. And obviously much has been done to address those issues. So that will be a focus on that front. I think labour standards are really important, good working conditions and
But has it been
companies
significantly improved in the recent years or months?
Well, I think there have been improvements, obviously, following Rana Plaza, but time will tell. I mean, I have to go and I want to see how things have improved and what's changed, and understand better what else we can do to support the sector. In the UK, we had many campaigns to make sure that the companies can provide compensation, and that there's an international awareness about the role of the consumer and responsible consumption and respecting labour standards and human rights, and that should be, you know, global in terms of the standards that we expect, and we have a responsibility in how we behave as consumers in the West. So that's important to me. Obviously, the climate change agenda continues to be important. I'm looking forward to meeting many of the business leaders here, but also members of the government to hear about some of the challenges and what they're doing to tackle those, both on the economic side, but also on the climate change dimension as well.
Rushna, there has been a wide range of apprehension about Brexit. We all are, somehow or other concerned that what it will produce, does it have any meaningful impact on, a greater impact on bilateral ties or bilateral trade and commerce? So what is your assessment after Brexit outcome?
Well, it's a live issue, obviously, and it will continue to be for a very long time. I was a Remainer, as were many in public life, but the people have spoken, and we respect the mandate. And what needs to happen now is we need to bring the country back together, because it has been a very polarizing debate and very difficult debate in our country, and we need to make sure that going forward, that the economic interests are protected, Britain's economic interests are protected, that our businesses can continue to succeed and thrive, and that will depend on the strength of the negotiations when Article 50 is triggered. And of course, the focus on the relationship then between the European Union and other countries is going to be a key part of all that, and we don't envisage things getting less good in terms of the relationship and the opportunities that are there between Britain and Bangladesh. In fact, the aim is to make sure that it's even better. So that's the priority. But it's early days, obviously, and we're very keen to make sure that Britain plays a really strong role in terms of promoting trade with other parts of the world, not just within the European Union. Personally, of course, you want to make sure you do both, and I think we will want to ensure the negotiations and happen in a way that can enable Britain to get the best of both worlds. So time will tell.
Yeah, there are around 500,000 diasporas very actively contributing in British economy. So, do you have any impression about, any sense about the outcome of Brexit will impact their potential to contribute in the British economy, or getting connectivity with their country of origin?
No, we have very active links with Bangladesh that go back a long time, and that is something that we want to build on. And I've always said that we need to and can do more to ensure that the British Bangladeshi community, who are thriving and doing extremely well now, both in business and in other fields as well, and who are also getting into philanthropy, they're getting into doing business in this country, that is maximised, because there's a real affinity and connection and commitment to Bangladesh for my generation, but also the younger generation, and we are doing a lot to make sure that the younger generation don't lose that connection, and that they continue to foster those links. So I think that's a plus, and I think both countries will need to do more to cement those relationships and make it appealing for them to trade and invest here.
Yes, apart from boosting trade and commerce, investment, British government have actively been involved in many other sphere of life, many other areas of life like governance, security, human rights, definitely climate change and others. So in terms of the governance, or in terms of seeing Bangladesh in a democratic ambience, what is your take on looking at the realities in Bangladesh, ground realities in Bangladesh?
Well, you know, Britain has tried to play a constructive role. The government, this government and previous governments of all shades have tried to a constructive partnership role with Bangladesh. And I think, you know, we do that well in general because we've got very strong ties and links and strong connections. And it is genuinely a very special relationship. I don't think many other countries can boast that between these two countries. So it does mean that Britain has been able to, in successive governments, been able to have conversations with successive governments here on challenging issues and at the same time provide support. And that's the spirit in which we want to continue to operate. And, you know, just a final point, which is you now have 3 British Bangladeshi female MPs, myself obviously, along with Tulip Siddiq and Rupa Haq. And we are very committed to this country as well as Britain in the appropriate way. And we're great champions of both countries. So you can take the girls out of Bangladesh, but you can't take Bangladesh out of us, British Bangladeshis. So we're really keen to make sure that we strengthen our ties and we do more together and help Bangladesh prosper. But also that prosperity is needed in Britain as well. So increasingly we want to see more partnership, more trade, more social projects and development going on here, because this is a country with huge potential and huge opportunity, and we're all really committed to seeing Bangladesh succeed and thrive, and that's what I'm very much hoping that I can, in some small modest way, also help and contribute to.
You were talking about Bangladesh's potential. Definitely, there was a time when the international arena, when a question of Bangladesh comes up, it conjures up with some negative images like natural disaster and other problems related to this country. But how do you look at the recent phenomena of countering violent extremism in Bangladesh, and do you have any apprehension that the effort of countering violent extremism will help Bangladesh to give right kind of sense of security for the international development partners to actively involve with the development process, get moves on in the coming days? Well,
it's something that most countries grapple with, and partnership is really important. We had the 7/7 terrorist attacks in London. More recently in Europe, we've seen attacks in Paris. Obviously, just in the recent days, we've seen it in Turkey and elsewhere. So this is something that international terrorism requires strong partnerships and strong relationships between countries. And I know that there's lots of cooperation between Britain and Bangladesh. And that's very much needed if we're going to tackle these sorts of challenges. And yes, you need stable, safe environments in which people to operate in. It goes without saying.
Well, you were talking about supporting Bangladesh in the climate change front. So what are the programs, or what are the specific programs you have for supporting Bangladesh in the wake of this challenge?
Well, the Paris Agreement was so critical for us, and our government and also my party was very much supportive of making sure we get a deal. That can only benefit countries like Bangladesh because it is, as you say, one of the most vulnerable to climate change in terms of its effect on millions of people. So the international agreements are critical, and Britain was the first country to introduce the Climate Change Act, and now many other countries since then have followed suit. So we've got to keep a very close eye in making sure that deal is properly implemented, and the big, powerful nations play their part in ensuring that they may meet their carbon emissions targets. And I certainly, along with many other colleagues across different parties, have campaigned to ensure that countries like Bangladesh should not suffer the consequences when they only contribute. The population here only emits about 2%. It's very, very, very small compared to the major economies where that's happening. So we need more global relationships and partnership to tackle climate change, and that's been a really powerful thing that our government has focused on, building on the work of the previous government.
You have always been passionate about Bangladesh, no doubt about that, but rising above your position or political or official affiliation, how do you look at the challenges and also the potentials of Bangladesh?
For this country? Well, I've always seen huge opportunity and potential, but I've never shied away from expressing what the challenges are. And I suppose I say that in good faith and because I care very much about this country. And that's why I'm so excited about this role, because I think this is an economy with huge potential. You know, the growth levels are admirable when you look at it from Europe, where our growth level has been anemic for a very long time, and also the opportunity to lift millions more people out of poverty through both development, social development, as well as economic growth, so long as it's inclusive growth, which we have to deal with as a challenge in our country. And
so robust, I mean, the continuous really robust growth, does it signify that the teeming millions who have been staying, I mean, below the poverty line, does it signal that they will be elevating on the upper tier of the poverty line?
It's something that every country all over the world, whether it's the richer nations or poorer nations that are emerging and growing, have got to face up to and have got to make sure that as there's growth, that shared that prosperity is shared. So you fight off the worst elements of globalization. That's something we're having to do in Western countries, and certainly applies to the emerging economies like this one. But you take countries like China, where the economic growth did lift hundreds of millions of people out of absolute poverty. And there are many other countries where you've seen that in Brazil and many others, where growth is critical, but it also has to go hand in hand with development and a focus in making sure that happens. I'm really proud of the fact that Bangladesh has met the Millennium Development Goal on girls' education, for instance, and Britain's involvement in establishing the MDGs was critical, and also that millions of young people in Bangladesh now can be educated, even if they come from poor families. And I see that in Sylhet, where there is poverty. It's a place I've been to. It's not as poor as other parts of the country. And I see families with very modest incomes where their children are doing really well because they had access to a free education, primary education. So, if we can educate the population even more and make sure they have the skills and there are economic opportunities through our trading and investment relationships, then things will, I hope, get better. But focusing on inequality is really key as well. And I think Bangladesh has a really positive story to tell, and we've seen that on gender, as well as some of the other indicators. The other thing is Bangladesh has been very innovative in promoting development, which other countries have learned from, through the work of many NGOs, domestic NGOs, in tackling poverty, and many other institutions that focus on rights issues, women's rights, girls' education, and much else. And, out there in European countries, Bangladesh is cited through those sorts of examples as having some very, very exciting programs and innovative programs. So, I think the perception of Bangladesh has changed often for the better on those sorts of indicators. Obviously, there are other challenges. They're not going to go away, but we all have to continue to work together to make sure that ultimately the focus has got to be on the people and ensuring that this is a country with so much potential and talent that is maximised for the benefit of the whole nation, because there's so much that Bangladesh is already contributing and can continue to in the future.
We are almost to end our conversation. Just before we conclude, what's your message? In this leg, what is the message you are going to extend to the people or the government or business community?
Well, the message is that Britain's very much committed to strengthening our what are already very deep and positive relationships between the two countries, that we are Britain's very much an outward-looking internationalist society. Yes, Brexit is a challenge for us, but we are not in retreat. We are not closing, in on ourselves as a society. We are a very dynamic society, very diverse society, and very much.
So it's not going to restrict the opportunities or potentials.
No, and in fact, we want to make sure that there are new opportunities that come out of this, out of every crisis or negative. In my view, that's just my view, not the government's view. Different views about Brexit. There are opportunities, and you need to look at the positive and look to the future and look at how we can bounce back from Brexit and also build our relationships with the Commonwealth and ensure that our trading relationships and economic relationships are enhanced and strengthened.
So despite of having different views on Brexit and some other issues, you're supporting the government. You were supporting the Conservative administration for boosting bilateral ties, relations in many spheres of life,
yeah,
right?
We have very different views between parties and individuals on Brexit and how that has to be pursued. That's a personal view. But the UK government's perspective is about making sure that we have strong relationships with countries like Bangladesh in terms of trading links. And the final thing I'd say about Brexit is whatever our differences on the European Union and how negotiations happen and what happens, every single person in politics is united in making sure that the national interest comes first, and that means our national economic interests as well as social interests. Obviously, we have different ideas about how that should be achieved, but across party, there is a recognition that we've got to make sure that our national interests are protected.
What is your evaluation in terms of divisive politics in Bangladesh? And definitely national interest should come first. But what do you see in relations to Bangladeshi political trend?
Well, it's not something that I can really get into, because each country has its own challenges, and you have to keep all of society, not just the political establishment, the business community and wider society has a very important role to play in making sure that those in power, whichever party, can serve the interests of the country. And that's an interaction that's about good governance and making sure that democracy continues to strengthen, and every country all over the world has to work at that. The developed nations are struggling with some of the challenges. Across Europe, we've got lots of rapid change. We've got new parties forming. So every society has to work at this. It's not something that's unique to Bangladesh. What I can say is that we look to making sure that we can play a constructive, positive role. Sometimes, but because of that strong relationship, Britain has been a critical friend as well. And that's important, that's healthy. And the same applies to Bangladesh acting as a critical friend of the UK when they don't like things that Britain does.
Thank you so much, Rushna Ali,
Thank you.
Labour MP and UK's envoy for trade and for Bangladesh. Thank you so much, dear viewers. We thank you indeed for watching this program, and we invite you to watch our next episode. Until then, do take care and goodbye.